I only pulled the gun because I thought we were under fire. That split second cost me my family, my name, and whatever was left of the life I tried to build. Emily screamed when she saw me standing at the top of the stairs, trembling, weapon in hand. Our son's toys scattered like landmines across the living room floor. The neighbor never even knocked, just walked in. That was 8 months ago. Yesterday, a Google alert brought it all back. Footage from disputed veteran incident released online. And in that grainy security camera feed, I wasn't the only one holding a weapon. Emily used to trace the scars on my chest like they were stories she had the right to read. "You're safe now," she whispered the night I moved in. I believed her. I believed the lavender sheets, the sound of a child's laughter downstairs, the way her fingers trembled only when I did. We made plans: house, school district, garden boxes. She even let me keep the service pistol locked in the closet, just in case. That was the first symbol of trust, I thought. But that gun wasn't a relic. It was the part of me I couldn't leave behind, and she knew it. The day she told her sister, I still twitched in my sleep. I heard it from the stairs, like she thought I couldn't understand fear. The stairs creaked under me like old bones, mine or the house's. I couldn't tell. It became a ritual: sit halfway up, just high enough to disappear, just low enough to listen. Emily and her sister talked in tones they thought were gentle. "He's trying," her sister said, "but what if trying isn't enough?" Emily didn't respond, but silence has a shape. I could feel it curve like the cold barrel I used to carry. That night, I dreamt of Afghanistan again. Only this time, the firefight was in our kitchen. When I jolted awake, I found my son's toy soldier under my back. Plastic, harmless, but the stairs had heard too much by then. Every word, every crack in her voice, added weight I couldn't carry down. I stayed there, in the dark, pretending I didn't understand. It was a baby monitor at first, white, plastic, perched like an owl above the crib. But one day it blinked in the hallway. Then again near the kitchen. Emily never said she installed security cameras, but I saw the app on her phone. Live feeds labeled front door, living room, stairs. "For safety," she said, too quickly. I nodded. I didn't ask whose safety she meant. The soldier in me understood surveillance. But the man tried to trust. The feeds caught me pacing at night, sweating through shirts, whispering to no one. She never confronted me, never asked what I saw when I stared at walls. But she started locking the bedroom door. Started sleeping with her phone face down, and I started to realize, maybe she wasn't waiting for me to heal. Maybe she was collecting evidence. It was freezing that night. The heater kicked off again, so I went downstairs, barefoot, shirtless, still half, dreaming of sand and static. The neighbor Greg was already in the hallway, key in hand, mumbling something about fixing the pipes. No knock, no warning, just a figure in my house at 3 a.m. My reflexes weren't civilian. I grabbed the pistol from the drawer. He reached toward the wall, probably the thermostat, but all I saw was a glint, a threat. I shouted, weapon raised. Emily screamed from upstairs. Greg froze, hands up. "Jesus, man, it's me." I lowered the gun, too late. The damage wasn't the aim. It was the look on her face. Like I'd confirmed what she feared, that I was the war, and the war had followed me home. The cops arrived 20 minutes later, guns drawn, voices clipped. Emily wouldn't look at me. Greg told them I brandished a firearm, like I was some drunk with a grudge. I tried to explain reflex, fear, training, but the words sounded hollow, rehearsed. One officer kept eyeing my tattoos. "You military?" he asked, tone flat. I nodded. He didn't nod back. "They didn't arrest me, didn't need to. They filed a report. Possible PTS, deer-related domestic incident. Recommend monitoring." Emily signed a statement. Quietly, when the cops left, she handed me a folded blanket and gestured to the couch. "Just for tonight," she whispered. But the way she locked the bedroom door again told me tonight had already started, ending weeks ago. I spent the next day fixing the wall by the stairs where I'd punched through it during a night terror weeks earlier. No one asked me to, but I needed to prove I could build, not just break. I patched, sanded, painted. Covered the crack like it had never happened. Emily stood watching, arms crossed, saying nothing. When I offered her the brush, she shook her head. "You can't just spackle over everything," she muttered. I wanted to argue, but she wasn't talking about the wall. That night, she moved the child's toys from the living room, neatly stacked, out of sight, like she was staging the house for someone else. Like I was a ghost rehearsing for my own eviction. Emily set up the appointment without asking. "Just one session," she said, "to help us communicate." I agreed, hoping maybe someone else could translate the mess in my head. But the therapist's soft voice, clean shoes looked at me like I was a case file already closed. I spoke about night sweats, the stairs, the twitch in my right hand. Emily talked about fear, about our son waking up crying. When I mentioned the cameras, the therapist frowned. It's natural for loved ones to seek safety. I wanted to scream that I was trying to protect them. Always had. But by the end, Emily walked out with a referral to a lawyer. and I walked out wondering if maybe I was just a ticking gun in someone else's house. One evening, she made dinner, my favorite, slow, cooked ribs, cornbread, even a beer waiting on the table. For a moment, I thought maybe she understood. Maybe this was her way of saying come back inside. We laughed, cautiously. She touched my hand, said she'd deleted the camera feeds, that she wanted to move forward. But something felt staged, too clean, too quiet. When I went to the garage later, I noticed the suitcase missing. Her car packed. That night, while I slept on the couch, she left, took our son, no note. Just the faint smell of lavender on the sheets, and a stuffed toy soldier abandoned on the stairs. It wasn't forgiveness. It was a distraction. And I'd fallen for it like a rookie clearing a corner too fast. 8 weeks later, the footage leaked online. A grainy, time-stamped video from the security camera above the stairs. One I didn't know was still connected to the cloud. It spread fast. Headlines called it, PTSD vet threatens innocent neighbor. My face froze mid-scream, pistol in hand, body rigid like I was back in the kill zone. But it wasn't the full clip. Not the one I saw. That one, quietly emailed to me from an anonymous account, showed something else. Greg, fumbling at his waistband, metal glinting in his hand. Not a gun, but a heavy wrench. Enough to scare anyone. Enough to justify a response. But the video was trimmed before that part. I brought it to the police, but the officer barely looked up. Not enough. He muttered. Intent still falls on you. You escalated. That word again. Escalated. Like I was a staircase, not a man. I walked out, pulse pounding. The image of that paused frame burned into my skull. My son's toy soldier sitting at the edge of the stairwell, caught in the same frame as me and the gun. It was never about who almost hurt someone. It was about who they were already afraid of. Out of options, I went to the VA clinic, hoping anyone, would listen. I brought the footage, the reports, even letters from my unit. The receptionist didn't meet my eyes. The therapist I finally spoke to checked boxes faster than I could finish a sentence. Are you a harm to yourself or others? She asked. I paused, wrong answer, and I'm locked up. Right answer, and nothing changes. No, I lied. I showed her the clip Greg reaching, my reaction, the cropped version versus the real one. She squinted, nodded slowly, but her words were neutral, detached. Perception of threat doesn't negate impact, she said. We can schedule cognitive therapy next month. Next month, I walked out, sat in my car for over an hour, hands on the wheel, engine off. Outside the window, a security camera blinked at the corner of the lot watching, impassive. That's all anyone ever did, watch. My military ID sat on the dash, faded from sun and neglect. I used to think that card meant protection. Now it was just another outdated credential. I wasn't a soldier anymore. I wasn't a father. I wasn't safe. Not to them, not to myself. The subject line was cold. Security footage revisited in civil rights case. A Google alert I forgot I set months ago, back when I still believed in justice. I clicked, expecting the same cropped clip. But this time it was different. Full footage, unedited. The original feed Greg's wrench, the audio of me yelling, identify yourself, and the timestamp. The leak came from a legal watchdog group suing the city for bias in PTSD-related policing. The article didn't name me, but the still was unmistakable, and buried in the comments, someone wrote, that's not aggression, that's survival. For the first time in months, I didn't feel crazy. I felt seen. I emailed the watchdog group, asking how they got the uncut video. The reply came fast. Whistleblower used login credentials tied to a shared family cloud. Emily's account. My stomach dropped. She had the full clip. Had it when she filed the report. When she told the therapist she felt unsafe. When she left, maybe it was fear. Maybe it was control, but it wasn't ignorance. She knew I wasn't a monster. She just didn't care to correct the record. I opened the baby monitor app we once shared, still connected. Still showing static feeds. One camera pointed at a child's room I didn't recognize. Another stared at the stairs. Still watching, always watching. I never planned to hurt her. That's the part no one believes. The gas can was for symbolism. The ragged cloth, the lighter. They were for closure. The house was empty. Realtor sign on the lawn. A perfect shell of what once held us. I stood at the base of the stairs, bottle in hand, staring at the faded mark where our son had once scribbled in crayon. Dada, half erased like me, but then I heard movement. Upstairs. A child's giggle. I froze. Emily hadn't sold the house yet. They were back. He was back. I dropped the Molotov. It didn't shatter, but something inside me finally did. I backed toward the door, heart in my throat. Then he appeared, tiny, pajama, glad, holding the same toy soldier I thought she took with her. He looked up, blinking sleep from his eyes. Dad. One word. No fear, no flinch. Just recognition. My legs buckled. Emily ran into the hallway a beat later, eyes wide, not in terror, but shock. You weren't supposed to be here, she whispered. I wasn't, but neither was the truth she'd buried. She didn't move to protect him. She moved to rewrite the story. I crouched, arms trembling, unsure if I was allowed to reach out. But he stepped forward. The toy soldier fell between us, just like the last time, only this time no one picked it up. As we stood frozen in that fragile moment, me, Emily, our son, the camera above the stairs blinked red. Recording, still live, still judging. Emily followed my gaze, then did something I never expected. She pulled the plug. Silence, the lens went black. I kept it running in case, she said, voice cracking, in case you came back wrong. I didn't respond. Couldn't. The plug on the floor felt heavier than the gun I once held. That camera had shaped the story, edited my instincts into threats, my fear into violence. And now, unplugged, it finally mirrored what I'd become. Off, uncertain, no longer surveilled, but still broken. I printed the full footage, highlighted the timestamp, circled Greg's motion. Left it on her kitchen counter the next morning while she was out with our son. No note, just evidence, a final act of transparency. When I returned that night, it was gone. No conversation. No change, just silence. She made dinner like nothing happened. Chopped vegetables, set 2 plates. But only one seat. Mine was gone. I asked if she watched it. She nodded. It doesn't undo the fact that I was scared. Truth hadn't freed me. It only reminded her why she locked the door in the first place. You can't overwrite fear with facts. I left before dessert. 2 days later, I got a call from a local attorney. We saw the footage. Strong case for defamation. Maybe even custody. My heart jumped. Custody. A word I hadn't dared whisper. He sounded confident, professional. Told me to bring everything: videos, reports, timelines. I showed up clean, shaven, in a borrowed suit. He glanced at the file once, then leaned back. Look, between us, your record's spotless, but optics matter. A gun on camera, PTSD, a Molotov. My chest tightened. He wasn't offering help. He was offering a reality check. You're not getting full custody, maybe visitation, if she agrees. And just like that, hope folded into paperwork. Another promise undone by fear I didn't create. A week later, she texted, "He's asking for you. If you want, come by at bedtime." My fingers trembled rereading it. I arrived early, heart pounding. He ran into my arms like nothing had changed. We built a pillow fort, whispered about rockets and superheroes. For 10 minutes, I felt whole. She watched from the doorway, arms folded, not angry, just distant. As I kissed him good night, he pressed the toy soldier into my palm. I almost cried. "Can I come tomorrow?" I asked. Emily looked away. This was just to help him sleep. The door closed gently behind me, but the lock clicked louder than any goodbye she'd ever said. I went to retrieve the pistol. My service weapon, locked in the closet since before the incident. Not to use. Just to feel its weight. To remember who I was when carrying it meant purpose, not threat. But the box was empty. No note, no explanation, just absence. I confronted Emily later. She didn't deny it. "It's better this way," she said. For everyone. The part of me that once survived deserts and blood and silence felt smaller than ever. I hadn't held that gun in months, but knowing it was mine had been its own kind of anchor. Now, even that had been stripped. I wasn't dangerous. I was disarmed, and somehow, that felt worse. I found the envelope buried in a shoebox. Honorable discharge, medals, thank you letters. Proof that I'd once been useful. I took them out to the backyard fire pit. One by one, I fed the pages to the flame. Not out of rage, not to forget, but to stop measuring who I was against who I couldn't be anymore. The papers curled, darkened, lifted like brittle leaves. In the glow, I saw myself not as a soldier, or a threat, or even a father, but a man without roles left to defend. When the last page turned to ash, I didn't feel empty. I felt ready. For what? I didn't know yet. But for once, the war was done. For months, I lived on the edge, halfway up the staircase, listening, watching, bracing. It was where I first heard her doubt, where the past echoed louder than the present. But now, I don't sit there anymore. The creak of wood no longer calls me to attention. I've started walking the whole flight. Up or down, no pause. That change felt small until I realized I'm not waiting for permission to exist. Not from Emily, not from the system, not from the ghosts. Some days, I still flinch when the heater clicks on. But I no longer reach for the gun that isn't there. I reach for the moment, for the next step, for the quiet that finally means peace, not ambush. I almost threw it away once, the tiny green figure my son left behind. Melted at the base, scarred from sunlight, but something in me refused. Now it sits on my desk, next to the VA paperwork I no longer dread opening. It isn't a shrine, it's a reminder that love doesn't disappear just because it gets redirected. That fatherhood isn't erased by court orders or silence. Some days I write letters to him, ones I never send, not because I'm forbidden, but because I'm still learning how to speak without armor. The soldier isn't a toy anymore, he's a witness to what I was, to what I'm becoming, and some days I look at him and whisper, I'm still trying, and I mean it. I used to think healing meant she'd take me back, or that the courts would clear my name, that someone would say I was right. But closure didn't come wrapped in apologies or verdicts. It came the night I stopped refreshing my inbox. When I didn't need to check if she'd replied, when I stopped writing those unsent letters. The world didn't give me back what I lost, but it stopped defining me by it. Forgiveness never arrived, and maybe it never will, but I forgave myself for being shaped by survival, for responding like a soldier in a world that wanted a statue. That forgiveness didn't mend my family, but it kept me from becoming what they feared. I saw her again at the grocery store. No lawyers, no tension, just two people reaching for apples. She looked tired, older, so did I. For a moment neither of us spoke. Then she said, "He still sleeps with that toy soldier." No apology. No blame, just a thread. I nodded, unsure whether to smile. "Tell him I'm okay," I said quietly. She didn't promise, but she didn't walk away either. As she turned down the aisle, I felt something shift. Not in her, but in me. I used to treat her silence like a sentence, a final word. Now, it felt like space, not exiled distance. And in that distance, I could finally breathe. The stairs weren't mine anymore. The cameras were unplugged. But the quiet was finally mine to keep. Before I left town, I returned to the old house, empty now, a for sale sign leaning like a tired soldier. The key still worked. Dust covered everything, but the stairs remained solid, familiar. I climbed them slowly, each creak echoing like old memories. At the top, I paused where I once froze with a gun, with fear, with everything at stake. I whispered to the empty space, "You're safe now." Not for Emily. Not for our son, for me. On the way down, I passed the faint crayon mark on the wall, Dada, faded, but still there. I didn't cry. I smiled, because some symbols aren't meant to be erased. They're meant to endure. When I stepped outside, the air felt different. Lighter, and for the first time, I didn't look back.